US Middle East tensions, and Iran's foreign minister says nuclear talks with the United States are taking place this Friday in Oman. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi announced on social media that the talks will take place in Muscat at around 10 a.m. local time, and he thanked Oman for making all the necessary arrangements. This comes after earlier reports from US media suggested the talks could be called off over disagreements about both the location and the format. Originally, Iran and the United States had agreed to meet in Istanbul, Turkey, with other Middle Eastern countries taking part as observers. But on Tuesday, Iran proposed moving the talks to Oman and holding them as strictly bilateral talks, focused only on nuclear issues. Earlier reports suggested that Washington has decided to reject Iran's conditions. For now, though, both sides appear set to sit down in Muscat on Friday, with talks set to move forward as scheduled. Joining us now is Major General Araghchi, an international affairs expert, joining us live from Jaipur. Thank you very much for joining us. As always, it's a great pleasure to talk to you. Iran, of course, here wants to limit nuclear enrichment and likely to raise broader issues such as missiles and, of course, the support for proxy groups from Tehran. Iran insists that these talks stay nuclear. Is this a negotiation or a clash of opposite goals?
Good morning, Thomas. It's equally a great honor and pleasure to be in your show always and every time. And thank you for having invited me. As regards the question which you have raised, it's a very serious contradiction to what US is actually staking out or USA is proposing. Having said that, let me dilate the issue very briefly. First and foremost thing, that this meeting in Muscat is the capital of Oman. Oman in the past has been a great peacemaker as far as Iran is concerned or any Middle East is concerned. I would say next to Qatar would be Oman, which has played a very important role in the past for ensuring peace in the region. That is one issue that I want to highlight, because they have linkages to negotiate effectively, to bring or make the stakeholders reach a common end and balancing out all the factors. Second issue is the one which you have raised. Well, Iran as a country, it's a civilizational country. And nobody should underestimate its capability. And today, when we are talking about Iran, it cannot be equated with a country like Venezuela. Talk about the armed forces, talk about its military hardware and the arsenal, talk about the hypersonic missile it has got, and the proxies it is operating, be it the Houthis or Hamas or Hezbollahs, or you call about Hadar al-Saib and a host of other militias. So therefore, while it may be a serious contradiction to the expected end state one is trying to achieve, for it to remain relevant and also for self-protection or protection of the country, I don't think Iran will ever forego its nuclear option. It will continue to dithering and flip-flopping. At times it will say that yes, we agree. At times it will say no. And in the background, there is a clandestine activity going on in Iran, whether, Thomas, you accept or not. Way back in 2000, April 22nd, if I respect my memory, the editorial in New York Times had given out an article in an op-ed that they have got more than adequate evidence Iran is in possession of the nuclear hardware. So if that be so, it is not once, it has come out number of times, 2006, 2009, 2012. So independent journalism and investigative journalism has always pointed a finger that Iran always had a nuclear warhead. Okay, even if we dismiss that issue, the enriched uranium which Iran has, one is insisting that they should transport it to a third country. It should not be there in the Iran. Now, given the freedom, the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the kind of hammering Iran has been receiving from Israel and USA, do you think that Iran will ever forego? Isn't the example of Ukraine good enough to remind the world that had Ukraine had the nuclear warheads on its soil, perhaps Russia would have never invaded. So that is the reality. Same thing goes for Iraq, Lebanon, Libya, and such like countries, Syria. So therefore, I don't think Iran is a country in 21st century which is surrounded by enemies all over, and particularly Israel. And USA doesn't want Iran to exist in its current military might and form. I don't think they will forego the option of nuclear weapons. Back to you, Thomas.
And of course, the United States has cut formal diplomatic relations with Iran since 1980 after the Iran hostage crisis, and pretty much immediately after the Iranian Revolution of 79. This administration as well, particularly hostile towards Tehran. Of course, we can talk about his first term also after the US quit this 2015 deal and reimposed the sanctions, which of course led to Iran expanding its nuclear enrichment, and disputes piled up. Of course, we're seeing what Donald Trump calls an armada build up in the Persian Gulf right now, and some say Iran is at its most unstable point as it has been since the Iranian Revolution of 1979. Can mistrust be reset when it comes to these talks?
A very brilliant and sharp question you have asked, Thomas. There are no quick answers to this because the times are so rapidly changing. They're altering. What is in the morning is changing by midday or by evening, because the leadership in the relevant powers in the world order, they themselves are not showing signatures of stability. And America is the superpower, whether we accept it or not. So therefore, I would say if you look back to 2015, that agreement which was made, JPOC, and Donald Trump in 2018, it pulled back. USA pulled back from that joint comprehensive, that administrative agreement. The central point of that agreement was to prevent Iran from going nuclear, and the sanctions would be lifted. Now, why did Donald Trump withdraw from that agreement in 2018? I have not understood. Had he continued, by now, Iran's nuclear endeavor going nuclear by now would have been diminished to a negligible percentage. Why did he withdraw, and why is he trying to put pressure on Iran now, trying to prevent Iran from going nuclear? This hiatus or the gap between 2018 to 2026, 6 years are good enough for any country like Iran to revive its nuclear architecture and go in for what it actually wanted. By now, I'm very sure a country like Iran would have definitely gone in for tactical nuclear missile, which the world is not taking cognizance of, which is very, very dangerous. So last point is talking about the trust, reset of trust. Thomas, everything is possible, provided the clarity of the end state is clear in the person who's mooting the proposal. Is there a clarity in Donald Trump, what is mooting today, what is proposing? This is the question coming to my mind. The second question coming to my mind, if he's so serious about preventing Iran from going nuclear, resetting of the trust, does Donald Trump as a leader, does he operate from a platform or realm of trust? I don't think so. Nobody can trust him. When there is a lack of trust in the person who's mooting a proposal, how do you expect Iran to actually, not that I'm supporting Iran, by no means. How do you expect the responder or the recipient or the opposing stakeholder to come up with a similar kind of intensity and passion and truthfulness? That is what the beginning. The whole world is actually victimized today because of lack of trust. The moment we have trust, the entire geopolitical churn will take a U-turn. It will be a about turn, and we'll start seeing signatures of stability and normalcy. Back to you, Thomas.
Major General Araghchi, as always, it's a great pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much for taking the time in joining us. We'll, of course, bring you all the updates coming out of those talks and before them as soon as we get them here on the channel. We turn on to our next story and over to Europe, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has revealed that the number of Ukrainian soldiers killed in the war with Russia